Jeff Wilson started covering the Texas Rangers in 2008, though he'll never forget 2021. Out on his own, he decided it was time to do a podcast, but his wheels were spinning until a nerd came along. There's no going back now. Welcome to the Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast. Here's your host, Jeff Wilson, and the recliner nerd himself, John Moore.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast. This is episode 4, and today is the minor league wrap-up. Jeff, we're in the last week of the minor league, so it's a good time to do this.
Yeah. The AAA plays until the end of the regular major league regular season, but everything else is over Sunday. There will be some playoffs, which Frisco and Down East are trying to get into.
Yep, still in it.
But they started what, May 4th or something like that, May 6th, and they packed a lot into the next 4 months, and honestly, it's been a good year on the Rangers farm. I think overall, you kind of look at the depth they added and the development stuff. Wins and losses, hit or miss, but overall, I think when the Rangers are done, when everything's done, they're going to be pretty happy with what happened this year on the farm.
I totally agree. And you can't look at wins and losses. It's good to win. Don't get me wrong. But there are a lot of games that are lost late in the game where you're trying out someone and they'll give up some runs late in the game or whatever. So wins and losses aren't as important as what's going on in the system and watching what these players are doing. And man, the system is good. Look, this is going to be a great one. We got 2 people that are going to join us today since we are doing the minor league wrap up. First, we're going to have on just newly promoted Paul Kruger, who is now the director of baseball operations. He was the director of minor league operations since 2008. He's had a long career in the Rangers organization.
Yeah, Paul knows what he's doing. He can do a lot. He's a good guy. You never hear anybody say anything bad about him. He can get along with anybody, and I think that's part of the reason why he's moving from the minor league side to the major league side, because he can talk and he can do the things that the Rangers need to get done. So that'll be good. It'll be I'll miss talking to him every week for Fridays on the farm, but this is a good guy, and he's got a lot of insight. And Ross Fenstermaker is going to kind of take over that show for Paul. Ross, another long time scout, with the organization a long time. So there's a lot of continuity, even though it's kind of changing roles, but they all kind of know what each other is thinking, can finish each other's sentences, that kind of thing. So so Paul is coming on, and then we're gonna have on Cole Ragans, and
that's another good one
about him later in the show. But what a story, and such another one of those just super nice guys that the Rangers really target in their drafts. They believe that good people bring the right attitude to a team, and that turns into a winning culture. So looking forward to this one, because we like talking about the bus leagues, as you call them.
Down in the butt. You know what that reference is from, right?
I don't.
That is a Bull Durham reference for anyone who's a Bull Durham fan. The flavor of the months, you know what? Down in the bus leagues. That's what he always said. In that, you have to go back and do it. I'm not going to say what it's about. All right, so you had a good idea here coming into this, and we kind of texted before we got it. Before we get Paul on here, we wanted to go over just kind of the state of the system, is what you said. Let's go over the state of the system. We're going to go down. Tell us what you wanted to talk about.
Well, I think just kind of what we were alluding to there in the lead-in. The farm system is much better now than it was a year ago, and then a year before that. I mean,
absolutely,
it's not just because the industry publications are now recognizing the Rangers system as a top 15 system. The Rangers are kind of already felt that going into this year, but they added some depth. They saw some really important players in the future plans take the necessary steps. And you can start with Cole Winn. I think the right-hander, first round draft pick in 2018. He's had just a phenomenal year. He was selected to the futures game. He started that game. he had a little, he had to go on the COVID list here, which is kind of derailed him a little bit. It's going to keep him from getting to 100 innings. But when you look at the season he had after not pitching last year like so many others, he's now, a guy. I mean, he always was a regarded prospect, but now he's backed it up. And if it wasn't for Jack Leiter, Cole would be the number one pitching prospect in the organization. And so, you kind of think, wow, Cole Winn, Jack Leiter, that's got a chance. So I think that's where you start. Then, you saw like Bubba Thompson, kind of resurrect his status, and Dustin Harris, who was acquired in the Mike Minor trade, who could be the minor league player of the year. And then you've seen, AJ Alexi, who was our guest last week on the show. He had a great year in the minors. I think he had a 1.66 ERA. So these are important things that happened. Guys developed. I know we're skipping over a bunch of them, but
we'll talk about them.
Yeah, the system's just in better shape.
Yeah, well, look at Baseball America. Once again, I think they do this about every 4 weeks, but they've updated their top 100 prospect list. And the Rangers don't just have 3 in the top 100. They have 3 in the top 50. That list came out a couple of days ago. You got Leiter at 26, Young at 27, and Cole Winn, who you were talking about, came in at 46. That's awesome. In the top 50, some of the names they were ahead of in that list, Christian Pache, who's fallen down below. Remember, Jason Dominguez was the big name coming from the Yankees. He's all the way down at 61. Mackenzie Gore, of course, now Mackenzie Gore hadn't had a great year, the Padres organization, but these are all names. Jackson Jobe, who was a huge draft pick this year, that everyone thought was a top. Yeah, he's down at 88 coming in. So, I mean, you look, and there are guys on the verge of making top 100 that are close down there. But I think the state of the system, if you ask me, it's doing nothing but looking up.
Yeah, and I think kind of you try to feel out where the strengths are. I think one thing is that they had players who advanced to the upper level. So that's important. That was something that had held the Rangers down. All their talent was down low. Now it has moved up to AA and AAA.
Right.
But like it really looks like they're on the verge of they have some quality pitching depth. I mean, and that's something that every team has to have. You look at the Dodgers the last couple of years, the injuries that they've had in their rotation. They just brought up a guy from AAA, and he's been just fine.
Yep.
Another top 100 guy, a real good pitcher. So you can look at the names. We've talked about him already. Winn, Alexi, Glenn Otto, who obviously has done some good things since he got called up to the Rangers. Jake Latz had that nice spot start in Cleveland.
Right.
Ragans, Cody Bradford. I'm leaving out a bunch of guys, but you get the idea. Now, they may not be in the rotation to start next year. Maybe a couple of them will be, but they'll be depth. Somebody gets hurt, these guys will come up and plug in. And then I think late in 22, and then to start 23, you're just going to see
top level,
a young, homegrown, drafted and signed starting rotation.
Yeah, that's the goal of any organization. Your top levels have to have starting pitching, performing. A problem you need is that you've got AA and AAA guys that are starters, that are rotation pieces, that are knocking on the door, that when people are grumbling that why aren't we calling up this kid, that's a great problem to have. And there's guys right after those you were talking about. Go down to down east. I mean, look at someone like what's his name, Owen White, who's on his way back after freak injury, punched the ground or whatever he did and hurt that. Sure. You got Owen White, Mason Englert. You got some guys even at AA. What's his name, Henriquez, who hasn't been horrible, and Tekoa Roby.
Development story this year.
Oh, Zach Kent's a very good one. He's one that I've got on a list. What do you think are some of the weaknesses in the organization?
Well, they have some really good shortstops. But I don't know that there's one that right now is ready to take over at the major league level. And I don't know a lot about Josh Smith, who was brought in from the Yankees, or Ezekiel Duran, also in that trade.
Right.
And then you go way down, Acuna.
Yeah, Acuna.
Costa, Cam Cauley, three guys who are at really the lowest levels, but have shown a lot of promise. And of course, there's Chris Cease, the oft-injured, talented guy, out again this year. Was at high A to start the year before he got hurt. So you just you see a lot of depth, but it's still kind of bubbling a little lower and not quite major league ready. But I mean, if that's your weakness, the Rangers, there's speculation that they're going to go get one of the big shortstops.
Absolutely.
In free agency this year, then maybe it's not that big of an issue. And then if they don't get one of them, well, they've got Isaiah Kleiner Falefa,
right,
who could win love there. So it's not like a horrible weakness. And then really, and this is kind of another strength. They they went through the year, knock on wood, without a bunch of major injuries.
Right.
There was TK Roby and Evan Carter got hurt in May or June. Aren't going to play again this year. Will probably participate in instructs, but
right.
Those are the big guys. Acosta did have to have surgery for thoracic outlet syndrome, but he's going to be okay next year.
Right.
So I think Wynn getting through healthy, Cole Ragans getting through healthy. A lot of these pitchers getting through healthy is a big deal. And yeah, Sam Huff, that stinks. He had the knee injury, Josh Young, the foot injury, but they're healthy now and playing.
Yeah, and if I looked at weaknesses on this team at all, I don't think there's people talk about every organization needs an alpha, one of those big alphas that's just the kids that's knocking on the door at 19 or 20, and they don't really have the big alpha in the system. Which, in a lot of times, that's a corner outfielder too. You don't see, and there's not a big corner outfield name that's just. I mean, look, Evan Carter could be if he moves to the corner. That's their biggest alpha potential in the minor leagues. He's a potential 5-tool guy, I think. And the good thing about him and Roby too, the injuries that they had, this more precautionary, keeping them out the rest of the year and doing that. It wasn't more about what was Carter? Carter was the back, and then
stress fracture in his back. Roby, I think there's some initial concern about the elbow ligament, might need Tommy John, but he didn't. So you
just rest
too. But it is okay. You don't, just because you hurt your elbow doesn't mean you have to have Tommy John every time.
Exactly. Right. And what about surprises? Let's talk about the guys in the trade. Anybody surprise you out of that trade? Out of not just the trades in this one, any trades in the last year or two, that any surprises there?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to go back to last year, Dustin Harris. I mean, he was in the Mike Minor trade, and he wasn't the headliner of that deal. So that's a big deal. This is a guy who is shot onto the scene. He's going to get a lot of consideration for the Rangers Minor League Player of the Year. He can play first base. He can play a little third. They think he can play outfield. So I mean, that's a real development. I think Glenn Otto's been a surprise. I know he got roughed up his last time. I think he's starting tonight. But anyway, if he can be a piece, I mean, what a good find.
Absolutely.
And, the pro scouting department deserves a lot of credit for that, to identify these guys and to get them. But another surprise, I think, and a very pleasant one, Bubba Thompson had just a wire to wire solid year at Frisco. Looks like he was drafted first round in 2017. Looks like he's
finally coming to age. Yeah.
Future again. One of those deals. So, that's good. These are all very good things for the Rangers.
I tell you, another surprise for me out of the trades is a guy that I don't think anyone expected a lot from, who has just had a complete power surge, is that Stowers in Double-A that they got in the Rugi trade. I mean, look, you get an outfielder who wasn't producing well there. Look, he's only hitting like 215 or whatever. He's got 19 home runs and he's played the year in Double-A. I mean, that's something that could be something. Look, you control that. Get your on base percentage up. But if you're hitting 19 bombs in Double-A, which is the big jump that people have to make, they say the biggest jump in the minor leagues from Single-A to Double-A. That's where it gets real, because that's where the elite prospects go. And 19 home runs, that's nothing to, I know it's 214 isn't a great average to have, but good Lord, who expected that from a guy you got for Rugi Odor on the way out, that he was basically a DFA getting out of it.
Yeah. And, in a situation like that, it's kind of like, the Yankees you don't think the Yankees are giving you great players, but he was a second rounder not that long ago from Louisville.
Right.
So there's some talent in there, and there's it doesn't mean he has to be in the major leagues today just because you got him.
Right.
These guys are developing. That's what the minor league system's for, to develop good players. And he obviously isn't going to be in the major leagues this year, probably not next year. But there's something there to work with. They didn't get their hands on him right away because the trade was in early April after the major league season started. So there was a delay of him getting to camp. And so they didn't really get their arms around him until probably, into the first month, if not the end of the first month of the minor league season. So it's something definitely to keep an eye on for sure.
Okay. So let's go. Okay. Not only through trades, were there any trade disappointments, or in the system, what are the biggest disappointments?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are disappointed that Josh Young was injured in spring training and very likely is not going to make his major league debut this year. I mean, it sounds like there's a very slim chance if something were to pop up, but that seems pretty doubtful at this point. And then, Sam Huff also was injured. It seemed like there would have been an opportunity for him to get behind the plate this year and kind of start working with pitchers, guys that he's going to be working with in future seasons. So I think that's a disappointment, but I mean, on the other side of it, they're healthy now. They've been getting at bats.
Yeah.
Josh Young to AAA, and he's hitting well. Looks like he's handling that adjustment fine. He was our second guest on the podcast. If you want to go back and listen to what he had to say, such an insightful. That was such an insightful interview, I guess. I mean, he was really good, and Sam Huff, very insightful, smart kid. They really know the game, and I think that they know what's in front of them, and they're kind of treating this like a development year, as they should be. And but at the same time, they want to win. That Frisco team's on the cusp of a playoff berth, and they had a big hand in it.
Yeah. And I think for me, a disappointment, if you're looking at disappointment, especially in the system, somebody that's just really kind of fallen back is Anderson Tejada, who's just I don't know what's wrong with him. He looks lost at the plate, even at AA.
He got called up early. This
way too early. Yeah.
He
hit a couple of bombs.
He went from high A to the majors last year and held his own, in that shortened season. Yeah, absolutely. And he's in Arizona now, rehabbing, and he needs to rehab a lot. He's got a swing to rehab. He's actually hitting better right-handed than left-handed, which is his natural side. So he's just lost there. Super talented guy. There's so many guys that
young too.
Just look at him and see all the tools and potential and start drooling. And but he's got to get it together. And I'll throw in another disappointment. Byron Laura, the Dominican signee in 19 for $3.8 million. He is playing. He's not hurt. He had that auto accident in March in the Dominican, in which a passenger in his truck was killed. The police investigated it. He wasn't able to come to minor league spring training. He had to stay in the Dominican all summer. He's free of the charges now. There weren't any charges ever, but he's cleared of any wrongdoing. Just kind of one of those terrible freak accidents. And he's starting to hit from what I understand. He's focusing on baseball a little bit more, but he didn't take the jump that I think the Rangers had hoped. And then I think similarly, Max Acosta, who had the thoracic outlet syndrome in his first professional season there in Arizona. But they're still 18. They're going to be 19 next year. Sound like they're 5 and on the verge of being out of baseball. So if these are your problems, then it's been a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think overall you can't complain too much. And Anderson, look, he's still young enough that if he gets it together, I mean, he's a switch hitter. He's a big kid. That could always work out. I mean, we've seen it happen. Look at Adolis Garcia, for anyone that wants to look at someone who didn't figure it out till he was 28 years old. I mean, so there's plenty of time as long as he stays in your system. All right, I think it's time right now. Let's go and let's bring in Paul here. We're going to talk to Paul Kruger. the director of baseball operations, new baseball director of operations. All right, guys, joining us right now is the new director of baseball operations. He was the director of minor league operations, Paul Kruger, and he's actually also, actually he's joining us from Amarillo, right?
Yes, yeah, in Amarillo, and hopefully can get our Hickory boys over the hump here and kind of a last hurrah with the next 4 games. So it should be fun for everybody.
You at the courtyard there in downtown Amarillo, or have you?
There's an Embassy Suites a block away, so it's actually quite nice.
All right, well, good. Do you know what a sod poodle is?
No, but they have a terrible winning song that I hope I never have to hear for the next 4 days, because that means that we're playing well. But I worked a lot in high desert, as you know, Jeff, and the wind blows out here like it does there. So hopefully we can keep it in the ballpark tonight and pull out some W's over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I was following that first game yesterday, the doubleheader, and it was 8-2. Then Frisco went ahead, and it was 10-9, and 10, and I know the Frisco, the Amarillo wind. I had a lot of family up there, and I used to play a lot of golf up there, so it can be brutal.
Yeah, it's I've actually played golf here, and that didn't go too well. And I'm not sure if it was the wind or just the fact that I'm not good at all. But we'll call it the wind. We'll call it the wind,
baby.
Yes, absolutely.
Always make excuses when your golf game is horrible.
No
it's
doubt,
the wind.
100%.
It's the wind.
So what we're doing here, we're doing like a minor league wrap up, and we John and I had talked a little earlier. I think wins and losses wise, you don't really look at that. I think that for the Texas Rangers has been a very good year on the farm.
I would agree. I think even wins and losses, you look up and 3 of our 4 full season teams are gonna finish over 500, hopefully, with Round Rock making a push here at the end. And even in Hickory, and I know they've really struggled here at the end, but you look at that month and a half, 2-month stretch where they were tops and really on both sides of the ball, from the pitching side to the hitting side, and the amount of players that they've moved up. But winning's important. I think winning builds good culture. It provides opportunity for growth and development, pre-game, post-game, in-game, for different opportunities. But you look up in the success that I think our players have had, not only staying within the minor leagues, but I think you're seeing it start to trickle up to the big leagues, and some of the guys that have gone up there pitching wise with Glenn Otto, AJ Alexi, Jake Latz, and Yoel Pozo, and you can keep going on and on. But it's been a very successful year, and I'm very happy with the work that our staff put in first and foremost, and then our players really most importantly have done themselves. So it's been a fun year to get back into it after a down year in 2020.
Sure. I think there's a lot of unknowns coming into the year because of last year. It seems like whatever programs you had guys on, they've managed to stay healthy. You haven't pushed guys too hard. It seems like you guys would be comfortable with how things have panned out from just getting back to baseball perspective.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's so good to be able to get back. And I think we're thrilled by the way things have gone. I give a lot of credit to our performance department, led by Napoleon Pichardo and Sean Fields, Chris Olson, and the entire medical staff there. And then on the pitching side with John Armold and Danny Clark, the work that they did to put together a tremendous throwing program. I think we've seen how that's played out. And ideally, and realistically, we didn't miss 2020. And that was kind of the goal, is to keep these guys going and have a tremendous throwing program and tremendous plan for these guys. And also to check in with them constantly to make them feel like they're a part of the organization and they're a part of the season, even though they're all at home. We did a count right before the season started, and there were over 15,000 check-ins by our staff members to players, for whether on the pitching side, on the position player side, medical staff, strength, so on and so forth. So our goal was to connect with the players nearly 5 to 6 days a week. And sometimes it was baseball, sometimes it was just life. And it was, how are you doing? Because I think we all struggled with that at times, myself included, being a person who lived by himself. And as you know, Jeff, and I'm never at home. And I think that couch saw me more than I've ever seen the couch in my entire life. But it was it was good from that end. But I think it carried over into the season, and the relationships led to trust, and trust led to results. And ultimately, knock on wood, we've stayed relatively healthy over this part of the season with just a little bit left to go.
Yeah, on the it seems like some guys had the benefit of being at the alternate camp, and one who sticks out is Cole Winn, and I think Bubba Thompson had some time at the alternate camp, and they've both had like big development years. Can you talk about those two?
Yeah, they've had massive wins. They've been massive wins this year. I think Cole Winn, the work that he did at the outside with Sags, Brennan Segara, and Jono on the pitching side, and then continued that into Arizona development camp is what we called it, rather than instructional league, because that's what it was. But he really pitched the whole year. He got the chance to retool and refine his pitch characteristics of really all of his pitches and become more comfortable with what he does. And I think we're seeing that play off in the season here so far. I mean, he's had tremendous experiences from the futures game to being able to pitch and make every one of the starts that he's scheduled to make, outside of his little COVID setback he had there. But he's a true starter in our eyes, with 4+ pitches that he can throw in the zone and when and where he wants at any time, which is fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for the remainder of this year as he continues, hopefully into a playoff run. But the composure that he has too is probably another thing that's really taken a step up on Cole Winn's behalf. And I think a lot of that had to do with the outside and facing major league type hitters day in and day out, and having the belief and having the success that he did really played out, and again, being able to fine tune and craft in what he does well. I think for Bubba last year, he got his big time was the developmental league. He got a chance to play every single day against the highest level of competition that was available, and really build that belief. I think, you look at 2019, he battled an injury. 2018, he was relatively healthy and had a really good year. But 2020 allowed his body to get healthy and allowed him to really fine tune his swing. The work that Cody Atkinson has done in 2020 and 2021, combined with Josue Perez, our hitting coach here, has done a phenomenal job with all of these guys. Bubba's just been able to find the kind of player he is. And the thing we were talking about as I'm here with them right now is he's not just a one-dimensional type of hitter. He's not, he's got the speed. He can bunt. He can play the game. He's beating shifts, which he was never able to do. He's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. So he's really becoming more of a complete type hitter. And I think you're seeing that with the way defenses are approaching him, and he's being able to capitalize off of what they're doing. So really excited about those two amongst many other players where they're at currently.
Yeah, John and I were talking earlier about the positives, and we're trying to come with some negatives, and there really aren't a lot. You guys have stayed healthy. The two negatives I chose is that Sam Huff and Josh Young didn't play in the majors this year, but I mean, they're healthy now, and it just seems like that they're not, in this year when you look at the major league team, it seems like it's just fine that they won't be in the major leagues.
I would agree. I think I would call both of their seasons successful. I think obviously, starting with Huffy, I think we'd all, and he could say it himself, would like to be hitting better than he is. But coming back from some of the injuries that he's had, especially with the knee in the offseason, and being able to play a majority of his games, even at first base, he'll move back to catcher here when the season ends and work towards being his position, which is catcher. But I think it's been successful from the fact that he's gotten to face upper level pitching night in and night out, learn from what he does and how he needs to make adjustments. But I would not consider it a failure. I think it's just areas to improve and the ability to show that he can do different things. And when he does take one of his tools away, which was our choice to remove catching, that he's still a valuable piece. And I think Josh Young obviously had the setback with the injury earlier in the season, but the work that he did in Double-A for the period of time he was there, AAA now. I think the Ranger fans have a lot to be excited about with this kid. I think the defense is superb. He's a type of guy. I was talking to a scout when I was in Round Rock last week, and he's the type of guy where when you watch for day in and day out, you just realize and appreciate what he can do. It's not flashy, but he'll drive the ball to where it's pitched. He can hit the ball out to all parts of the ballpark. He can hit any pitch at any time, anywhere. And really, the thing that I think a lot of people were wondering is the defense, and the defense has been very good, like I mentioned earlier. And his first step is immaculate. The guy prepares like none other pregame, but also pre-pitch. And it's fun to watch, and something that I really picked up on through Kenny Holmberg, a former infield coordinator, now our Round Rock manager. And you just watch him pre-pitch and the things that he's doing to read the hitter, read what pitch is coming, understand swings. It's excellent, and it's high level stuff coming from a kid that is really playing in his first full season as a professional.
The thing that you wanted him to work on was pull side power, and he's done that, and he's still able to go the other way. I mean, I think he has 16 homers as we sit here right now, and that's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have too many at bats.
No, and the amount of games that he's missed, I think it's 270 plate appearances, roughly, something like that. I'm not 100. I might be wrong there, but anyways, that's what's the fun part is. We like to talk about, and Cody preaches solutions for various pitches, and his ability to have that pull side power and understand counts, understand what the pitcher is trying to do to him is giving him another weapon. I think the big thing that he's learning, and that's really in AAA where you have a little more advanced type pitchers is, yeah, I have the pull side ability, but my ability to hit the ball out in right center field is just as important and just as vital and valuable, frankly, as my pull side power. So having all of those clubs, as we like to say, in playing golf in your golf bag or in your tool bag is important, and he's got those.
Two other areas that you guys gained a lot of depth this year, not just what developed, but through the trade deadline also. And really it dates to last year's trade deadline with Dustin Harris. So nobody likes to trade Joey Gallo. I know that, but it seems like that those two trades, the Gibson trade and the Gallo trade, kind of maybe brought some more attention to your system that it had been overdue.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, as well as obviously our second overall pick didn't hurt the cause there as well. But yeah, I think the type of player we brought in, and that's kudos to our pro department and the guys from the Yankees, and then you mentioned too, like Dustin Harris, a name that a lot of people thought Marcus Smith was the big get there, and Marcus Smith's going to be a tremendous player. He's playing currently in Arizona as a rehabber, and he's on his way back, and will get full time in the instructional league. But you start adding these pieces, and when you add pieces and you have big names that are doing what we expect them to do, other names also start to show up, and you start to recognize the type of talent and depth, to your point, Jeff, that we have in the system. You look at that team at one point there in Hickory, where you had Dustin Harris, Blaine Krim, Justin Foscue, you had Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran, all in one infield, and it was just prospects all over the place, and it was a fun thing to follow. But I think for guys in the system and for our staff as well, it's fun to get that recognition. It's not something that we pride ourselves or push ourselves to be, hey, we have to be a top 10 farm system, top 5 farm system. It's not what we talked about in PD, but what we talked about is making sure that the work that we done and that our players were putting in and the type of players that we had was recognized internally as well as externally. And I think that's starting to happen. So it's fun to go to the ballpark every day knowing that you're not there just to see player X. You're really there to see 1 through 9, and not just the starter, but every bullpen's got some reliever or multiple relievers, I should say, that have a chance to help us in the big ones.
Yeah, you mentioned the draft. I mean, and then number 2 overall, Jack Leiter, but you guys picked second in every round. And Willie Calhoun, I was talking to him yesterday. He had rehabbed in Arizona, and I said, "Hey, did anybody stand out there?" he said Ricky Vanasco, who he stood in against bullpens, but then he said the third rounder Cam Cauley. He said Cam Cauley can do everything. So it seems like you guys didn't just hit at the very top. You hit, Aaron Zavala's doing well at 2. Cam Cauley 4 and 5 are in the ACL too. So it seems like there's just early indications are you've had a good draft.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we're really excited about what obviously what Jack's going to provide us when he gets going. We've kudos to the performance department. They've been really neck and neck with him all throughout the last couple of months and been with him constantly. And then to, like you mentioned, Zavala, he's continued to hit since he's been promoted to down east. Cam Cauley is a tremendous player, just like Willie said, can do a bunch of different things and all over the field, can run like the wind. He's a plus runner, but plays really good shortstop and really can control the bat. So excited about him. And then you keep going down the line with Mahler and you got Tucker Mitchell, who really has stood out with a bat. Pitching wise, Bradford Webb, a name that didn't get a lot of publicity, has done a great job. Evan Elliott, Larson Kindrich. It just keeps going on, and not just from this past draft. Give a lot of credit to our amateur department with running by Kip Fagg and Adam Lukowitz with Evan Carter, a name that I know got a lot of publicity, good and bad, on the night of the draft. And I mean, you look up, and in our estimation, he's got a chance to be one of our top players when he's going, and he can do a lot of different things. So just a tremendous job of finding and recognizing talent, in our opinion, by our amateur scouting department. And it's really been fun to kind of see how all those departments over the last really 2 years have come together more and more and better than ever, with the amateur, pro, and player development really trying to work as a unit. And I'm excited to see how that continues to go. And
then up next is Instructs. Who's going to be there, and what do you expect to see?
Yeah, I mean, Instructs is always a fun time. It's always been one of my favorite times of the year because you get a lot of your top guys really from high A down. The majority of the players are high A down, and really most of them are the Arizona guys. Just gives us an opportunity from the coordinator staff to be around them, see them, work individually with them on different things. And you'll have some guys that could come there, such as, Dustin Harris is a guy that's scheduled to be there, and he's going to, focus in on some things defensively. And can we move him more around the field and get him playing some third base like he has, playing potentially some outfield, but finding new ways for him to be as versatile because he's a really good athlete. Then you talk about on the pitching side, you get a bunch of those younger guys there. Josh Gessner will be there. All of our draft picks will be there. And it'll be a lot of one-on-one time with guys rather than focusing solely on the season where, you're focused on that 7 p.m. game, to use that term. It's really about the player themselves and the instruct part of individualizing their plan. So using our performance center, using everything we have in Arizona, there's just so much that we can do, so much information that we can gather, and so many great plans that we can put in place for arguably the most important time that they're going to have. And that's going to be from now October, since our season goes so late, from October until next April when their season starts. So that 5 months is just vital.
Will Young and Huff go to Instructs, or will they play elsewhere this off season to catch up on whatever they might have missed?
So some of those decisions are still being made. Some of the guys some of the older guys, Davis Wenzel, who's missed a bunch of time, Justin Foscue, those kind of guys will likely play, whether it's the fall league or some other type of league. They will come to Instructs likely for a period of time. It's kind of hit or miss depending on the situation. But I think it's important that we try to get these guys games, just like innings with a guy like Tim Brennan in Double-A, who missed a bunch of time early in the season. You got to get these guys to a certain workload to be able to go full bore next year. So
good season, good prospects, and you got a promotion.
Yeah. No, I take zero credit for that. Honestly, the work that we talk about it a bunch, and being here in Frisco with these guys. I was just in Round Rock, and it's been, to call what it is, it's been a complete 180 from where we were last year, sitting on the couch and it's been tough on a lot of people because we've been away and you've been away from home. And what you got used to in 2020 was back to what reality is in our business in 2021. So I really can't commend and cannot thank the staff enough for what they've done and the amount of time that they're away from their family and the work that they put in for these kids. But also, most importantly, the work that our kids do. We have tremendous kids, tremendous character, tremendous people on and off the field. And that's what leads to the success. And I think that's why we're having success. And I think that's why the Rangers are going to get back to where we all want to be in the big leagues because of not just the type of player we have, but the type of people we have.
Yeah, that's the thing. These kids are so good. And just like people, just so nice and smart. And they just seem to know what they want. And they go about it without ego. Just, it seems like that's kind of what Chris Woodward wants, in a player. So, and I know you guys, when it comes to acquiring guys, you guys look at that, and that's a real thing.
Yeah. Makeup's huge, character's huge, and I think the way that a guy plays the game of baseball is huge. And you look at some of the guys that have gone up there recently, and the way that the big league team, it's fun to watch. It's a fun product that creates opportunities to score by really being aggressive. It's selectively aggressive. It's something that at times we'll have to pull our hair out because you're like, no, you can't run there. This is not a time to run. But what is fun on the flip side is those are teachable moments, and we'd rather be able to pull you back than have to give you a little tap on the back to get you going. So it's a fun environment, and that's all started by the type of players we have and pushed by the great staff and coaches that we have that work with them on a day in and day out basis.
Awesome.
Hey, Paul, what you travel a lot as a director of minor league operations, right? How much do you travel?
I'm on the road. Well, in 2019, we'll use that number.
Yeah,
I was on the road 252 days. I keep track of every day. And this year, 2020 was my low point of my entire career, obviously.
Yeah.
And then 2021, I'm on the road roughly 20 days, if not more, a month. I've actually, this is weird to say, especially transitioning into my new role. I have yet to be at a big league game, a major league game this season. So I've yet to see our stadium with fans.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't tell you what that's like. Whether that's, and it's usually because I'm on the road as we are home right now. I'm on the road. But two reasons for that. Number one is it's important that, we see our players and evaluate our players and staff and provide that help where needed and be around. And also with the two affiliates that we own in Hickory and Down East, I help those guys out as well. And it's kind of fun to be a little bit kind of a consultant, if you will, for lack of the title or anything, but it's fun to kind of dip your toe in that. But number two, and it's something that I'm a big believer in, is when we have camps, we have events going on, we have the season going on, and we require our players and staff to be away from their family. I think it's important that we reciprocate that and we do the same thing. So I make it a point that any time that we have something going on, I'm there for support. I'm there to show that I'm with them. If they need anything, I'm in the fight with them. I'm in the trenches. I've actually had to suit up this year in uniform for various reasons. And I coached first base because we had some COVID issues with our staff. So
wow,
I got to experience things that I never thought I was, but and it's not by any means to say that I have any clue what I'm doing as in terms of a coach similar to the guys that we have and the quality of people that we have. But I think it's important that these guys know we're there for them and we're there with them, most importantly. And that's what I like to do. And that's what I'm going to miss most about this new job. And it's going to provide new opportunities, but being there with these guys day in and day out in these towns is something that is truly important to me. And I enjoy it more than I can explain on here.
Go ahead, Jeff.
My first Paul Kruger real memory of interacting with him was in the Dominican in 2014, and I had it was my first time down there, and we were driving around. The old complex was in Boca Chica, and so was the new one, but the old dumpy place. And we were driving around, and I wanted to see where Jairo Barris who was the ballyhooed signee that year, where he
Yeah.
had grown up, because I'd heard that it was just a very poor, grew up very poor third world type of situation, and it was. I mean, his house was like a tin shed, and but we were leaving the hometown, the little town, like just off the spot on the road, and there are some kids playing baseball, and so at this dilapidated field, but they were having a great time. And Paul gets out and just starts talking Spanish to him, just like he was their best friend, and they were talking to us back. And I mean, anyway, Paul's been around. I guess that's what I'm getting to. He's been all over the place, all over the map. He's done so much with the organization. So, kind of one of the behind the scene guys. You always hear from John Daniels and Chris Young, but it's guys like Paul that help make the thing go.
He probably saw an 11-year-old that looked promising. That's what he was, where's your mom and dad? Are your mom and dad around? You didn't understand, Jeff. You don't speak Spanish.
I know.
No doubt. No, but that was when I got my start in the Dominican in 2009, summer 2009. Lived down there for 3 years, so I know what it's like, and really the memories. And Kenny Holmberg and I were talking about it a couple of days ago, that because he was one of my managers. Tingler was number one. He was the first manager. Kenny Holmberg was the second one. And we were just joking about the good times, the crazy times, the not so good times that you get to experience. But I tell everybody there's no better place to start, because you're on your own island, literally on an island by yourself. And the mistakes and, I guess, areas to improve, if you want to call them that you get to experience, or you can't get those in the United States. You can't get those in normal internships. And being able to be down there, live down there, that experience was something I'll never forget. And every time I talk to students or people, I say, find something like that. Find something nobody else at the time wanted to do. Go down there, be a part of it, embrace it. And that's only going to help you, whether you end up staying in the game or not.
Now, let me ask you this. Is the new job are you going to travel near as much with the new job?
I don't believe so, at least not to these types of cities. I think I'll be traveling a bit with the Major League Club. I obviously, if the opportunity presents itself, we'll likely travel to some of our affiliates. But most of my job will be with most of it, if not all of it, will be with the Major League Club and Major League operations.
It's gonna put a dent in your airline miles, man.
That is true. That is true. I hear the plane's nice, though. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I've never been on it, but I don't know if I'd want to fly either. I don't know if I'd want to fly with the players. That's a conversation for another day.
Not you. You're the media. You can't talk.
Well, I mean, back in the day, that's the way it was. Until probably I think until the late '80s, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
And, but hey, they have their privacy. I want mine too. So
there you go.
All right.
Well, Paul, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I know that you're busy. You're probably transitioning from one to the next with the job, but just taking time to come out. This is new for Jeff and I. We're 4 episodes in, and we get the new director of baseball operations, Paul Kruger, comes on with us. Man, we can't thank you enough. I know you got a busy day, and thanks for coming on with us.
You got it. Thanks, John. Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everything you guys are doing to push the organization, push minor league baseball, Jeff. It's a huge part of us, and it's a huge part of, and it means a lot to the people. It means a lot to our players and staff. So thank you all.
Good. You got it.
Okay. That was Paul Kruger, the director of baseball operations. It was good having him on. Before we get Cole on here, let's go into a couple of awards we might do for some of these minor league players.
Sure.
Okay. So
where do you want to start?
Let's start with comeback player of the year. Who do you think is comeback player of the year?
Well, we just mentioned his name. It's got to be Cole Ragans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, he's not just coming back from 1 Tommy John surgery. He's coming back from 2 Tommy John surgeries.
Sure.
He had not pitched in a baseball game that matters since 2017. All right.
Right.
That is a long time. The good news, I guess, is he was young then. He's still young now.
Right.
But he's come back, pitched really, really well at Hickory. I think I'd talked to him in May for a story, and he's saying, you just kind of getting back to the routine. feeling the good kind of soreness that you're supposed to feel after a start, just getting
Right.
used to those things. And then he took off, and he ended up being in the futures game along with Cole Wynn, um, which is a huge honor.
Sure.
And got to Frisco, and I just think that it's a victory for a lot of people in the system, from the rehab guys, sticking with him, but it's a huge victory for him. I mean, for to talk about being able to overcome adversity and come out the other side on the right side of things. Great for him.
Yeah, and I think the only other one there's a couple guys you can look that have come back from injuries that haven't. Owen White was one that had Tommy John surgery. He put up good numbers. He got hurt again because of a stupid. Got a little. I mean, he's got some emotions there that got the best of him. What did he punch the ground, or did he punch the wall?
Punched the ground in his first start on opening night. Yeah, broke his hand.
But he's back now.
He's back in Down East pitching. Mason Englert also in Down East.
Yep.
He'd had Tommy John surgery, so
yeah,
those are good things. And then really, we could have picked Bubba Thompson, I guess, for
I had him written down.
Based on where he was in 2019, he got hurt a couple different times and was just lost.
Yep.
But good stories, fun stories, and again, a good thing for the organization that these guys are back and doing good things.
Absolutely, but none of those are going to compare to 2 Tommy John surgeries and the way Cole's looked this year. So Ragans easily is the comeback player for me. What about any breakthrough players?
Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about Dustin Harris.
Yep.
I think that's a big one. I don't know. He may be your player of the year, maybe my player of the year. We can't give it away just yet. But
yeah,
he again, he wasn't the headline piece in that Mike Minor trade, and he certainly is now. He's hitting, I think, 360, 370, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
He's torn up high A. He went from low A and got better. So I think that's a very pleasant breakthrough. He has jumped onto top 30 prospect lists in the industry. So
sure.
I'm going to go with Dustin Harris on that one.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Dustin Harris as far as breaking through or breaking out. That's a good one to look at, unless you want to go into to someone like a Snyder, but we all knew Snyder could throw good, but he kind of busted out the way he's been throwing.
And I think Cody Bradford's worth a mention here too.
Sure.
He was injured in 2019 in his last year at college at Baylor, and the Rangers really hadn't seen him pitch until this year. So, and he's had a great year and has ascended to Double-A too. So, there are some breakthrough candidates, but I think Harris is probably the one that's getting talked about the most.
Okay, so let's go to MVP of the year, and I think. It's hard for me to argue breakthrough player is MVP player to me. I'm still on Dustin Harris and the year he's had. I hope this continues. But for me, I mean, if you want to look at someone else who's had a, great year that's come through, you can look at Curtis Terry and what he was doing before he got called up, or maybe someone like Foscue, who was unbelievable till he got to Double-A, which he's finally starting to get there. But yeah, I think Dustin for me.
Yeah. Foscue was hurt also.
Yes.
So he probably didn't play enough. Josh Young didn't play enough to be like the player of the year. We talked about this guy last show. I think it's got to really just straight up numbers perspective. It's Blaine Krim. At Frisco now, he's got 27 home runs. If he has a good weekend, he could finish with 30. But his numbers will be unmatched in the system.
Right.
And, I asked Paul last week for Friday on the Farm, is Blaine Krim a prospect? And because he's not in any top 30 lists. And Paul said, yeah, he should be, just because he hits. He's not great defensively, right, at first base, but like he's better than Curtis Terry. He can hold his own. And he can also play a little left field, so he's athletic enough to get out there. He's not Mike Napoli going out there to play left field.
No.
It's serviceable. So if he can add a little versatility, play decent enough at first base and hit like he hits, I don't see how this guy is not a prospect in a future major leaguer.
Well, I get to pat myself on the back. At the beginning of the year when I was at the other place, I did a top 20, and I did have Blaine Krim in the top 20. My criteria, you can't have ever played a major league game, but I did have him. I think I had him close to, I have to go back and look at it, but it was 15 to 20, somewhere in there. I had him because of the numbers he had put up before coming out of college. Okay, so we got to end it with pitcher of the year. So yeah, I know who I think. So I think you probably think the same thing. Go ahead.
I do think it's Cole Winn. But I don't think it's a blowout. I've got
two other names also.
I don't think it's a runaway. I think you have to look at AJ Alexy and what Alexy did. Like a 1.66 ERA. That's pretty darn salty. It's better than Cole Winn's ERA.
Yep.
Neither of them is going to pitch enough to qualify for any of the end of the season awards. But I just think, when people talk about Cole Winn, they say it's 4 quality pitches, and AJ Alexy has 4 pitches, but they're not as good as Cole Winn's. So right. You see what Alexy's done. I know he got maybe not exactly knocked around. It was some of his own doing on Monday night, but if that's AJ Alexy, if he's going to be, let's say that's a number 4 starter, and Cole Winn's better, and you've got no worse than a 3.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, that's pretty good. And the Rangers needed to see it. They'd seen the last time they saw him pitch, it was 19, low A. He was up and down, had to figure some things out. And then obviously didn't pitch in 20, but this year it's just, and it's been wire to wire. It's not like he struggled and right. Wasn't able to, there haven't been any ups and downs. It's been a straight line this way, straight line upward. And that's just that, you hear every manager, every coach talk about, well, he's got to be consistent. Well, Cole Winn's been consistent all year. And I think right. That's that if anything is the most significant thing, is that it's been consistent the whole season.
Yeah, and if you've watched him at all and looked at him on the mound and his presence on the mound, how he delivers and how he looks like a starting pitcher, and he carries himself like one. The way he throws his pitches, his out pitch when it's on, he'll have that slider or that changeup he throws. I mean, it is impressive to watch him. His composure on the mound. He just looks like he's not intimidated at all. So he was easy for me. The other names you did, AJ Alexy, which is another name. He's in the big league. So for me, I'm not thinking in the big leagues right now. I'm thinking of, and these guys didn't put up near the numbers, but again, your guy you've talked about, Cody Bradford's had a decent year coming through, and Zach Kent, who has just kind of jumped up and made his way here. The numbers aren't near as flashy as Cole's, but hey, this is a guy eating innings and not afraid. He's out there throwing strikes, and that's another guy who could be in the conversation. No one's going to top Cole in the year he had, but those are two good names.
No, Kent is he's a 4-pitch guy. His fastball gets into the upper 90s. He had 2 little hiccups here recently at Frisco, but one thing that these guys who didn't pitch last year, they're going to have fatigue at the end of the season.
Sure.
Their performance there is going to dip. Their stuff, the quality of their stuff's not going to be as sharp as it was in June and July. So, and that's okay. That's part of developing. You got to get stronger. I mean, you see it in the major leagues, guys who get tired at the end of the year. So, but yeah, that's a good name to keep an eye on, and that's a good one.
Yeah, and that's a guy that's going to be in either the AA or the AAA rotation next year, coming out of spring training, and he's going to be a guy that could get a spot start next year if he continues. What I'm talking about, Zach Kent, and even Bradford too. I mean, these are 2 rotation pieces that are in either AA or AAA, and people, you've got to remember this too. And everyone, COVID killed it. I mean, these guys are getting over 80 innings, trying to get up to 100, but that's 100 after having none. in
Yeah.
2020. I mean, these guys were on. Some of them didn't even come and play at the the ones that got to go over and play at the alternative side, they got to throw and face batters. The rest of them, you were on your own.
Yeah, and then if you want to take it one step further, since you're naming out 2022 rotations already, the Round Rock rotation is going to look a lot like, I think, the Frisco rotation this year.
Yeah,
to start the year. I'm not saying AJ Alexi can't make the opening day roster, but
sure,
he's not going to get to 100 innings.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with him starting near in the minors. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Cole Winn obviously will be at Round Rock.
Yep.
Rangers had some decisions on some Rule 5 guys like Jake Latz. They protect him. He doesn't, or if they don't and he doesn't get picked up, he's there now at Round Rock.
Right.
I think Ragans, Bradford, Kent open next year at Frisco, and then we'll see what happens. But there's going to be some really good pitching rotations at the upper two levels to start next season.
Yeah, and then you got people like Owen White, Roby, and those guys that'll probably start out at Hickory, who, if they do anything like they did, like a Zach Kent did this year, could wind up next year in Double-A by the end of the season coming up. And it's more about innings, and these kids have never pitched more than 40 innings in high school or whatever. It's a lot. You've got to build the arm strength up because, look, a good major league pitcher now is at least getting 150 innings in the major leagues.
Well, and I think it'll be interesting to see where the Rangers start Jack Leiter.
Sure.
I mean, I think the experience he's had at Vanderbilt and the level of competition they've played, it wouldn't be surprising to start him at Double-A.
I would think so. Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. And maybe he pitches at high A for a month and moves up, but it's like I said, these rotations have a chance to be really good in the minor leagues next year.
And I think it's easy. Not that the Rangers aren't afraid to travel and send people out to watch and scout and do that, but when you're John Daniels and Chris Young, and it's easier to drive over to Frisco to watch your number one pitcher pitch than trying to catch a quick plane up to Hickory or catch him over somewhere in North or South Carolina. So, and he's 21. He's not young. He's not the 18-year-old coming out of high school. He had 100 innings this year for Vanderbilt. Yeah, it was 110. Yeah, I thought it was 101, but I read the one in zero. My dyslexia on the innings there. I read that wrong.
He has more innings than Cole Wynn's gonna have this year. So I think everything's just fine.
Yep, absolutely. Do you think they send him to fall instructs, or is he going to stay at Vanderbilt?
Well, I think he's going to come for like a weekend or a long stay, a longish stay. But he is taking classes at Vanderbilt, and they trust what he's doing there from a baseball workout perspective. So my understanding is he's going to go to school this semester, and then once the semester ends, he's probably going to be an early arrival to surprise, maybe like in January early. So be interesting to see.
All right, joining us right now from Amarillo, Texas, where the Frisco Rough Riders are playing the Amarillo Sod Poodles or whatever that thing is out there. Is Texas Ranger left-handed pitcher Cole Ragans, and what a year for Cole coming back. Obviously, comeback player of the year. We talked about that. Cole, welcome to the show.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah. So, do you know what a sod poodle is?
I have no idea what a sod poodle is.
Golly, I think I looked it up the other day, and I already can't remember. But
it's a prairie dog.
That's what it is. That's right, a prairie dog.
That makes sense because every time on the scoreboard, I always see the prairie dog, but I never put two and two together.
I'm gonna say
that's funny.
Tell my kids that. Hey, that's not a prairie dog; it's a sod poodle. Yeah. So, you guys are right in the thick of it here.
Yeah, it's everything. Us and Arkansas and Northwest are all right on top of each other. It's going to come down to, I feel like, the last game of the week.
Yeah, which is the last game of the season, right? I mean that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Can you believe it's already over?
No, honestly, it's like looking back, I've had days or weeks where it's like, dang, I feel like I've been in this city for a month. but like back over the whole season, it's flown by. Like I feel like yesterday we were breaking spring training.
Yeah. And you started in Hickory, obviously. First time you pitched in 4 years.
Yeah.
And did well, went to the Futures game, then got to Frisco. So kind of talk about when you came back initially there in Hickory. Maybe it took you a couple starts to get used to all the baseball stuff, but you found a rhythm, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, my first start back, actually the first pitch I threw in a real game that meant something it was a home run. Very first pitch I threw, Oppo bomb. First start back, first pitch of the game. See ya. I was like, oh my gosh.
Welcome back.
Yeah. I was like, holy cow. But no, I mean, I've tried to tell myself to just kind of, take it like when I was in Hickory, take it day by day, like enjoy the fact that I'm actually getting to play baseball again. I'm not sitting in Arizona rehabbing my elbow and that kind of stuff. Like I'm actually getting to play and have fun and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Futures game. I mean, I'm guessing that was very unexpected for you.
Oh, very. Probably one of the most unexpected things that's ever happened to me. Like I didn't even know there was a Futures game going on this year. Mm-hmm. Like I hadn't heard anything about it. No one really had talked about it on the team. So it was just like, and then I got called into the office one day and I didn't know what was going on. And we called Keith Comstock, who's the rehab, like on-field rehab guy. And he told me over the phone and I was just like, holy moly. I called my wife, told her, and I was just like, "This is one of the most unexpected things that's ever happened."
And then, so now you're in Frisco with Frisco.
Yeah.
What would have been the differences between high A and double A?
Double A, I'd say the hitters make you pay for your mistakes a lot more often than high A.
Okay.
Like you hang a curveball here. I've done it twice in my past 2 outings and it's gotten hit pretty hard. Where sometimes you might get away with that in high A, but here most of the time they're ready for the mistake. I mean, the guys here are a lot more, I feel like they go up there. There's a lot more guys that go up to the plate with a plan in mind. Like, hey, I'm going to look for this, or I know he's got this and I know he doesn't throw it in the zone very much, or they have really good eyes, really good approaches, like that kind of thing.
Okay. So, I mean, this has been a good challenge.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. How are you feeling at this point? I mean, we haven't gotten into your injury history here, but
no, I mean, I feel good. I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, this is the most innings I've thrown in my life. So velo's a little down, but I mean, overall, my body feels good. I mean, hopefully get one more start in and then go from there.
Okay. So the injury history, 2 Tommy Johns. The first one you're probably like, well, all right. And the second one you're probably like, oh, what the heck is this? So
yeah.
I mean, but the second one, I remember you telling me, we were talking earlier this year, like you threw a pitch and you couldn't even get it to home plate.
Yeah, I couldn't. I tried everything. I couldn't. Like I threw 6 pitches and I felt like I couldn't get any of them to home plate. Like it was just I don't even know how to explain the pain that I felt. Like it was just like I don't know how to explain it.
Did you know again that it was the elbow? Did you know after you tried? Did you know that's what it was?
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea. I didn't know how serious it was, but I knew it was something to do with my elbow.
Yeah, and I also recall from that conversation we had, it was in May.
Yeah.
Basically, Keith Comstock said, you can quit or we can do this again.
Yep, exactly. He said, you can take it to the house or you can go through the whole process again.
And you chose wisely, it seems.
Yeah. No, I'll never quit. I mean, it's injury's going to have to put me out, something like that. But
So there was never any thought of, you know what, I don't want to do this again.
yeah, no.
Good.
Now, so Keith Comstock, obviously, I think you and Chris Cease probably know him better than anybody in the organization.
Yeah.
But you also, your first time went through rehab with Edinson Volquez.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that guy, because he'd had 2 Tommy Johns now, obviously years and years apart, but it seems like he might have been a pretty good resource for you to.
He's awesome. He's treated everybody the same. He didn't care if you had big league time or you were first, second year in pro ball. He didn't care. He'd come up, talk to you. You could ask him questions. He'd answer them. Like, just super down to earth, humble, awesome guy. Like, it was. I don't even know. He was awesome. Like, never came in a bad mood. Like, always outgoing, always in a good mood. It was awesome to have him.
I mean, I'm guessing the days you didn't want to be there, he kind of picked you up a little bit too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the whole group, the rehab group, like, if someone's having a bad day, you kind of start cutting up and then get that person out of like their little funk and then go from there.
Okay.
But
so now that we're at the end of the season, you've made it through start to finish. You've caught the attention of a lot of the industry publications again and scouts, and you're back on the prospect lists. I know you don't pay any attention to that, but do you feel like you're back?
yeah, I mean, first half of the season, I felt like that's the best I've been ever. Like, I mean, velo was good. I started messing around with a slider that was helping me out, which obviously still throwing it, still helping me out a lot. Feel like I came back better than I'd ever been.
So what's next?
Get better, figure out, fine tune things, breaking balls. I mean, little mechanical tweaks that'll help me, use my legs a little more, that kind of stuff.
Are you headed to Arizona after this, or are they going to give you some time off?
Give me some time. I'll go to Arizona for a couple of days, but that's it. Nothing like, I'm not going to be in instructs or anything.
Okay, good. I mean, you spent enough time in Surprise. All right. I mean,
yeah.
You could probably run for mayor if baseball doesn't work.
Yeah.
Get a mayor in Surprise.
Yeah.
20-something kid leading all those seniors around. I can see it now.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's good. Hey, one thing, John, that we also talked about back in May. This is a great conversation, by the way. It was during one of my daughter's soccer games. So,
oh yeah,
there were whistles being blown in the background.
yeah.
Wind was blowing. It was ridiculous. But and I'm very envious of this about Cole Ragans. He does not have a Twitter account.
So
can you explain, Cole, why you got rid of Twitter?
So I never my account is still on Twitter. Like, if you look up my name and stuff, but I deleted the whole app off of my phone because when I was going through rehab, all I did was sit there and scroll through Twitter, and I'd just be like, see all the baseball stuff, see all the kids that, were my age or younger, drafted same year, whatever, making it to the big leagues. And then it just pissed me off and like put me in a really bad mood and make me just like be all up in my head. And so I was like, I can't do this to myself anymore. Like, I got to delete Twitter, like stop looking at it, because then I can live like, I don't know, what's the word? Like, I won't have so much like going on in my head. Like, I won't be thinking about it. I'll be able to go to the field, play baseball, like get better, like not have to be like, oh, this kid's making it, I need to do this. Like, why am I not there? Why am I the one to get hurt? Like, that kind of stuff. Just forget about that stuff. Like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically like, so you have an account, but you don't pay any attention to it. I wish.
Yeah, no, like I don't have the app on my phone or nothing. I don't go on Twitter.
People tweet you have no idea. Good.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, Twitter's the downfall of society. I mean,
oh my gosh.
if I didn't have to have it for work, I wouldn't have it. It's just brutal. And
Yeah.
so I commend you on your decision. Yeah. So is the wife with you in Amarillo, or does she?
Yeah.
Or is she still in Florida? Oh, she travels with you. All right.
She'll come to like certain road trips. Like it just kind of depends on what other girlfriends and wives are going on the road trip. Like they'll all try to like get together and be like, hey, we're all going to go on this road trip. That way it's not just like one wife or two wives sitting there by themselves. It's a whole group of them that get to hang out throughout the day while all of us are at the field and stuff like that.
Yeah. Not a lot of, I had family that used to live in Amarillo, so I'm very familiar with Amarillo, and there's not a lot of places to hang out, but
yeah, no, they like, I don't know. I guess they just kind of hang out around the hotel till the game, and then they'll all go to the game together, and just a lot. I think this time there's like 6 or 7 of them, something like that.
Oh man, well, it's the last trip. It's a big one.
Yeah.
So what now is this a high school sweetheart that you married?
Yeah. It is.
You're from Tallahassee, right?
Yes, sir.
So, you're drafted by the Rangers in the first round. That's who you signed with. Let me ask you this, was there any schools you were committed to? Were you going to Florida State?
I was committed to FSU.
Well, I was wondering if it was Florida State. Did any other schools make you any offers?
I mean, not like I went on one trip, like one
recruiting trip,
official visit or one visit or whatever. And it was to FSU. They offered me, I took like a week, and I was like, I should have just told them the day that they offered me that I was going there. Cause I already know that's where I wanted to go.
You grew up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think on my high school team, when I committed, there was 4 of us on my high school team committed to FSU once I committed.
Wow.
So
you're an FSU fan?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about the Jacksonville State game.
Yeah, no, football.
It must have felt like a third Tommy John. Good night.
Oh my God. I checked it and we were winning, and there was like a few minutes left, and then all of a sudden I like check it like 10 minutes later, and I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how?
Yeah. Crazy stuff. But they should have hired Dion. I wish Dion was their coach.
Yeah, that'd be cool. He's doing pretty well. What is he at Jackson State?
Yeah, Jackson State, I think, is where he's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd probably be on probation pretty quick, but hey, it'd be
Yeah.
Hey, did you play any other sports in high school, or were you just baseball?
No, not in high school. I played 1 year football in middle school, and I got lit up one time pretty good, and I was like, this ain't for me. I'm done. Like, I'll finish this season, but I'm going to stick to baseball. I'm a lot better at it than I am football. And
I mean, you're a tall guy.
You're big.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was one time I got blindsided, and I was like, that did not feel good, and I don't like it.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, have you had any interaction with Cole Hamels since that day at spring training?
Yeah, actually, he threw a bullpen in Frisco. I don't know, like
this few weeks ago, or a month ago or so.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago or so, before he signed that deal with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And so he was like, they told us like, hey, he's going to be here at a certain time. Like, you can show up early, and that way you can kind of watch him and talk to him. Like, told the whole team that. And so I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to get there early and watch. So like, he was like starting his warm up, and then Jeff, our pitching coach, like said something to him like, hey, do you remember Cole Ragans? And he was like, yeah, and then shook my hand, and we like said a few words to each other. And then after I like let him, go on about his stuff and finish his bullpen. And then a couple of us sat in the dugout, and he like came down and just kind of talked with us, like nothing specific, just kind of shoot the breeze with us.
Yeah, always liked Cole. He was a good guy, and it was spring of 17, correct? Mm-hmm. When you guys spent the morning together.
Yeah,
pretty cool deal. The Rangers did that for you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Good.
It was awesome.
A couple other things. One thing we talked about before this started, you're a lot less hairy.
Yeah.
What
Chopped
happened?
it all off.
What happened to the locks, man?
I wasn't throwing to my liking, and so I couldn't go out there with a haircut like that and not throw good. So I had to go.
Yeah, hey, this is legit, man.
I could. I mean, yeah. So it was time to chop it off.
Did your wife like the long hair? I mean, honestly, or was she?
So at first, when I got it cut the first time into a mullet, she was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like she knew I was going to get it cut into that, but I came back home and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then like she honestly liked it a lot. Like she was kind of sad to see it go.
Yeah.
Because she was like, when we're like hanging out with friends and like she meets somebody new, then they're like, "Who's your husband?" She was like, "The guy with the mullet right there," and then everyone would know. So
Hey, I proudly wore a mullet in high school. I'm the only one old enough that when that was actually in style. Now they're coming back. So I was all for the mullet because I wore that look.
I loved it. I mean, I can always grow it back. So
was it business in the front and party in the back? That's
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I always wore a crew cut. I always wore it short, flat top.
Yeah. Well, that's how I actually had a mullet when I was like a baby. Like I had a really, really good one. And then obviously got into school, cut it off. I was always from 4th grade to 12th grade, the school I went to, like dress code, like had to wear a belt, shirt tucked in, like clean cut, can't touch your collar, all that kind of stuff. So never had long hair in high school.
So you rebelled. You went.
Yeah, like I'd grow it out in the summer and then I'd have to cut it.
So how long had it been since you'd cut your hair?
I hadn't cut. Well, so I cut it into the mullet in like May of last year.
Okay.
And then let the back grow all the way until spring training. It was really long in spring training, and they made me cut a couple inches off because it was like past my collar and stuff. And so cut that off, and it was still like decently long, and then I let it go all the way until I cut it off the other day. So, I mean, it basically been, I guess, a year and
more than
4 months, somewhere like that.
Wow.
Solid work. That's commitment right there.
It'd been a while.
All right. Well, good. John, you got anything else for our guest?
No, man, Cole. Hey, we appreciate it. I know that you guys are vying for a playoff spot there. It's a pretty tight race right now between y'all, Northwest, Arkansas, and who else?
Yeah, Wichita's in first, and then us, Arkansas, and Northwest are all like right by each other, like within like half game of each other.
Yeah, well, taking time to stop down and talk to us, that's a big thing. And Cole, we're going to get you back on here. Maybe in the spring we'll see you there, but we really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Thank y'all.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
That's Cole Ragans, Texas Ranger left-hand pitcher Cole Ragans, joining us from Amarillo. Cole, we'll see you, sir.
See y'all later.
Well, guys, that's the minor league wrap-up. And you talk about a good wrap-up, getting those two guys on. We've gone up and down the system. There's some interesting names to watch in fall instructs that are going to get kicking off here pretty soon. We're going to keep up with it. We're going to finish out this year, you and me, getting this out to the end of the season and try to keep this going all during the offseason. There'll definitely be some things to talk about. You guys don't forget to go down and like this thing. Give us a good review on there. Join the Texas Rangers baseball newsletter at jeffwilson.substack.com. Thanks to Cole Ragans. Thanks to Paul Kruger and Jeff. Next week, we'll see you there.
We got the start of instructs, so maybe we can find somebody who's there right now. I'm thinking a pitcher. We'll see.
Yep, we'll see what we can do and get someone else on there. Guys, thanks for being a part of this one. And until next time, we'll see you at the yard.